Hey, guess what, friends from all over the automotive universe? It is time once again for yet another
spiffing episode of V8 Radio, Kevin.
Ooh, spiffing.
Spiffing.
How spiffing? That sounds like kind of a British term. It's very spiffing.
Yes, righto. Right.
What does that mean?
That means excellent or splendid.
Oh, right on. Splendid. I'm your host, Kevin Ostie, joined as always by our esteemed co-host, Mr. Mike Huball Clark, who is appearing to be rather spiffing this evening.
Yes, indeed. Likewise, my good friend. Likewise. Old chap.
Splendid. That's why we do this. It's a self-help group just for us.
It's our own little 12-step program.
That's it. We throw sunshine at each other, and you get to listen and follow along at home. How about that? Oh, man. Well, we know the real reason why they come here, and that is because of the automotive trivia questions, my friend.
And why else?
Yeah, really, there's no other reason.
Yeah, no other reason.
Yeah.
Very much.
So yes, we prepare some automotive trivia, however trivial it is, and I got a good one for you. I think you're going to get it.
Oh,
yeah!
Wow!
Yeah. You want me to go first?
Holy cow! Yeah. I got a nice softball for you. If you don't get it, then you're fired.
Oh, judgment.
Okay.
Prejudging.
Yeah.
Nice.
Here we go. All right, Kevin. Back in the day, there was a certain U.S. auto manufacturer that had a feature built into their cars called the typewriter drive. What was the typewriter drive, and what manufacturer was it?
Oh, man. You thought I was going to get this?
You're going to get this.
Typewriter drive? You know, I honestly, I don't think I've ever even heard of it.
Kevin Ostie.
Yeah, the typewriter drive. This is a feature from an American automaker.
U.S. automaker, and you know what? I'll give you a hint.
Oh, good.
It was from mid 50s to mid 60s is when this was on these cars.
Typewriter drive. I'm lost. You completely got me.
You're a liar!
Why the heck would I lie about something I don't know? I lie about all the stuff I do think I know, or I'm lying about. I really have no concept. I don't think I've ever even heard that term.
Well,
now I have to wager some kind of a spiffing
now
guess.
You have to throw a guess out there, and you're going to nail it because you've been stringing me along this whole time.
No.
Okay.
No. It's not on the script. You know, if it's not on the script, I don't know the answer. Okay, typewriter drive. What the heck? I'm trying to think of some kind of analogous automotive component to the typewriter, and everything I'm getting in my mind sucks. You know, because it kind of plods along and it clacks and it clunks. Right? So what the heck? Why would you advertise that feature of a vehicle? It clacks along and it's slow and it clunks and it's, you know, it creates typos. I have no clue. So I'm just going to throw a wag out there and say that the typewriter drive, it smells like Ford for some reason. So I'm going to say it was a Ford thing on full-size vehicles, maybe Galaxies. Oh, wait a minute. I think I know where you're going with this. Hold on a minute. This was a Mopar thing, wasn't it? And was that a name for the push-button shift?
I don't know.
Maybe that's what it was. You push the buttons like you're typing on a typewriter to select the different gears.
All right, so let's back it up here. You've thrown out a couple manufacturers here. I'm going to give you the opportunity to lock it in.
Okay.
And make your final answer.
It's very kind of you. Yeah, I did had kind of a vomitus of information there. I will say it is a Plymouth feature, and it referred to the push-button shift action on their automatic transmissions.
Shift on auto trans. All right. Well, that was quite a journey we just went on.
It was, yeah. It's still probably wrong, but that's the closest thing I can think of that has any kind of a context that might make sense to a typewriter drive, for crying out loud. All right. All right, I got one for you. That's a lot easier.
All right. Let's have it.
What car company built a model called the Manta, and where could you buy one?
The Manta.
Mm-hmm.
What car company
What was
built
the
a
manufacturer?
model called the Manta? U.S. auto manufacturer, I'm assuming? Give me that. Give me that.
Give you the manufacturer?
No. If it was a U.S. auto manufacturer.
Um,
You better give it to me. God dang it.
Kinda.
Okay.
I mean, yes, I guess. Sure. Technically. That's a tough one.
The Manta. All right. The Manta sounds pretty much of a speedy car.
Speedy.
Sounds like something rather exotic in
Ooh.
its namesake.
How exotic.
How exotic? Let me see.
You have
Chevrolet
such a
had
spiffing
the
Manta.
Oh, it is spiffing. See, Chevrolet had the Mako Shark.
Oh.
For a Corvette type.
A speedy nautical connotation there, yes.
Yeah, exactly. The Manta. And then I hate myself right now because I know this answer, and I've heard of this before.
I don't think the Manta had typewriter drive, by the way.
No, okay. Well, then that could rule out Ford or Plymouth.
Because I got both of them wrong, is what you're trying to tell me.
I'm going to say the Manta was a General Motors creation. Or do I need to be more specific than that?
Well, I mean, the only General Motors brand on a car would be like GMC, right? I mean, it's not like there's a General Motors.
Right. Okay. Well, that's the parent company.
Okay.
But
so we're starting at the top, yeah.
Yeah.
General
I will say
Motors parent company. Noted.
I will say, well, to drill it down a bit, we're going to go with we're just going to go with Buick.
Gonna go with Buick.
Yes, the Buick Manta. Everybody's heard of that.
I think I owned 7. They were spiffing automobiles.
Yes, they were spiffing
when they were
in
dry.
auto and 4-speed.
Yeah, right. Okay, so where could you buy one then?
Oh, that was a part of the question too.
Yeah,
Where could I buy one? Okay, I apologize.
That's all right.
At your local Buick dealer.
At your local. I mean, that only makes sense.
And Kevin, wouldn't you really rather have a Buick?
I would. Yeah. The Great American Road belongs to Buick.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Cars to light your fire.
Yeah.
That was in 1970, their ad campaign.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah. I don't think your local Buick buyer was into the doors at that point, but you never know.
Yeah, well.
Okay, duly noted.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Yeah, not really, but thank you.
This is what automotive trivia victory smells like, folks.
Like a steaming pile of you-know-what.
Of spiffing Manta.
Of spiffing. A pile of spiff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right on. Well, you're going to have to wait till the end, you listener friend of ours, to hear what the actual answers to these riveting questions really are.
For Pete's sake. Just terrible. My Lord.
We get a lot of good feedback on this show about people listening, and we appreciate that. But, they've never said you guys should write trivia books.
Nice. And they wouldn't be wrong in that assertion.
No, the V8 Radio,
Oh, boy.
lame-ass trivia book.
Oh, it's on the New York Times bestseller list.
Yeah.
Oh, Lordy. Well, Kevin, moving on, you've had, you got a few things going on in your own garage with your Galaxy, so to speak. You're gonna make some movement on that.
Yeah, I talked about it long enough, and finally going to do some stuff. You're right. I'm pretty excited, actually. The first order of business is to modernize the fuel injection on the car, which,
Dig it.
as I say that's kind of funny to think. This car, so it was originally, I believe, an S-code 390 cubic inch V8 with a 4-barrel Autolite carb. Maybe it had a Holly on it. I don't remember. But that engine went by the wayside a long time ago, so we didn't feel very guilty about changing it out. Because when we got the car, the original engine was long gone. So in 2000, I believe, we did a conversion on it and installed a Ford Motorsport SVO block 351 cubic inch fuel injected engine. And looking back, that was 20 years ago already.
My gosh.
I know. And in 2000, the fuel injection technology that we used was from the EEC4 family, which was already 12 years, 8 to 17 years old at that point.
Wow. I did not know that.
Yeah, because it was vintage, like early 90s stuff. So I guess 8 or 9 years old.
Okay.
They were new parts, but the ECM was like a 92 Mustang.
Oh, okay.
Right? So that puts it at 27-year-old technology. And that ECM actually, I think, came out in 85 or 6.
My gosh.
Right. So, I mean, this thing's old enough to have kids of its own at this point.
Right.
That are like
with their own cars.
In college, yeah, right.
Yeah.
So it served pretty well. I mean, I think I've got 40-some thousand miles on this package.
Okay.
Some cross-country trips and stuff. And the good is that the air intake system is an Edelbrock Performer 5.8 manifold, what they call it. So it's a port fuel injection system. So it's got fuel rails with injectors, and it's got the lower intake and then the upper, and then at the end of the upper is an elbow, and then the mass air meter and the throttle body. 70 millimeter throttle body on this one. I think 24-pound injectors, and the 24-pound injectors are probably at the limit for 351. If you're going to spin some RPM in it, they're probably right at that.
Is that right?
Yeah, you probably want, something at least in the 30-pound range.
Okay.
But I never built this to be a race car. I wanted it to be reliable, and I wanted it to be, as fuel efficient as it could be, and it's got an overdrive transmission and all that jazz. And the rest of the engine is, for the time, definitely pretty good stuff. That 351 SVO block, it's basically designed for sportsman drag racing, bracket race guys. Okay. But it's a roller engine, so full roller cam, roller rockers. It's got comp adjustable rockers on it. Where the push rod cup is adjustable, basically. So you can.
Oh, I gotcha.
You don't. Originally, they were pedestal adjusters, so you would take the rocker arm off, and you could shim it upward or downward to compensate for where the valve and the tip contacted. Mm-hmm. And I changed those out to be these adjustable ones where the tip is adjustable. The only downside about that is you cannot adjust them while it's running because the thing's moving, obviously. So
right.
You got to set them manually. But it's a hydraulic roller. It's a comp cam, a 268, an XE 268H hydraulic roller. So it's an extreme energy cam, which is one that has a pretty vertical ramp on the cam lobe. Makes good vacuum, has a little bit of a lope to it. The engine itself is probably only about 9-to-1 compression, 9.2, something like that. Mm-hmm. But it's got aluminum heads, which kind of makes it like an 8.5 to, high 8-to-1 compression. Because it runs on anything. You can put 87 in it all day long and it doesn't care. And the heads are Ford GT. they're GT40 heads, but they're called the X303 heads, I believe. X303s. Anyway, they're GT40X heads is what they're called, and it's called a turbo swirl combustion chamber. So it's got a little bit of a heart-shaped quench area, and they're pretty decent out of the box. You know, back in the day, a lot of Mustang guys are racing these things, and you can port them out quite a bit and make them flow pretty well. Mine are straight. You know, that was a crate engine from Ford, and that's the way it came, and that's the way it still sits.
Sure.
One of the downsides of the 351, by the way, is the main bearing journal size is larger than a big block Chevy.
Get out of here.
Yeah, because 351s were truck motors primarily, and they built that crank and that bottom end to be really, really strong. But that also translates to having a pretty big parasitic drag because there's so much surface area in those bearings.
Yeah.
So it never really got the fuel economy I was hoping for. If I was smarter, I would have done like a 347, which would have been a 50302 block instead of the 351
punched
block.
Out a bit and stroked.
Correct. Yeah. But I wasn't thinking that far ahead when we did this one. But again, it's like I said, it's port fuel injected and the whole deal. The computer is the EEC4 or the EEC4. It's like an 8-bit Atari. I mean, it's like it's like, you know, a 6 megahertz. I mean, it's an old. I don't even know if it's
like
that.
An old calculator watch.
Yeah. But it controls timing and it controls, you know, all the functions of the EFI system. So you can't really tune those. And we talked on a previous episode about, you know, putting a chip on the car. And that's what you used to do. You used to have to have a prom chip burned and plug it in on the back. And I have this device called the Tweaker, which is a play on EEC, TWEECER. And it allows me to piggyback that and access all of the scalars and tables and functions of that ECM with a laptop. But the problem with it is tuning it is like a painful process.
Is it?
Because you have to change each individual value on each table individually and then go run it, data log the air fuel, and then compare it to see if you're making an improvement or not, because it doesn't do anything on its own.
Oh, I gotcha. No self-learning back then.
No. It isn't a mass air system that has a small percentage of trimming, what they call. So I think it's up to maybe 2% per cell on a table. And it takes it a really long time, you know, to drive around and smooth the curve a little bit, you know. But it's funny, the computer was originally for a 92 5-liter 302 cubic inch Mustang, and already we're throwing it in a 351. So all of the volumetric calculation tables are off.
Right. Just out of the water.
Yep, by 50 cubes. And Ed Marsh, who was a guy at a company called Windsor Fox that did the majority of the work on the fuel injection swap, he pointed out that at the time he had a 68 Mustang with a 351 or a 347 stroker on a completely stock computer with no tuning whatsoever, and it was safely running like 11s. So he said these things actually do have the ability to run properly if you scale everything up accordingly. So we scaled up the engine displacement and then also scale up the injector capacity so that the computer doesn't really know that everything is bigger. It's just firing the pulse width at the same rate that it would have.
Okay.
We're just spraying more at a time because we're running more air through it.
I gotcha. That's interesting, man. I mean, for in the 90s, that was pretty amazing stuff. And I know we spoke about this before, but just to be able to have some tunability with an aftermarket ECU was really big news when the advent of, electronic fuel injection came around. Because, before the manufacturer's box, you really couldn't do anything with it unless you cracked it open. And if the chip wasn't socketed. You'd have to desolder it,
Yeah,
and hopefully,
right.
and then maybe get like a socket put on there so you could reinsert it. And it was a real pain.
That's right. Add an EPROM
and people were
to
willing
it.
to do it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, get an EPROM.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's an
and people were happy to do it.
erasable, programmable read-only memory for those.
That's
who
right,
know
man.
that. Yeah, how about that? But yeah, and people did it. It was just archaic and a pain. So, in all the years of ownership of this system, I never really took the time to spend like 3 days at the dyno and smooth all the curves manually and apply all the different functions, because I had so many variables that were different. So yes, the cubic inch displacement, the injector capacity, the air intake diameter. So originally that car came with like a 58 millimeter mass air and throttle body, and I was running a 70. So all of these things, the exhaust was different, and they all have an effect. So it ran okay. I drove it a lot. The idle was always kind of screwy. The idle air control system wasn't scienced out. I never had a good working EGR system, which is very beneficial on those cars, not just for emissions, but for tuning. And so, along comes our friends at Holley with the technology to have a self-calibration ECM, to a certain degree. And I thought that would be really cool. And the flip side is that you open the hood on my Galaxy and it looks like 1993,
Right.
It's got that style of intake manifold, and it's got the good one, but it doesn't look like 1962.
It's kind of dated. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it finally dawned on me that, the prices aren't real high on a Holley Sniper EFI system, and that's a throttle body system with injectors built into the throttle body. And the pieces that I have on my car are still pretty valuable. You can go buy that intake manifold, that upper and lower, brand new today, and you find the package on eBay for $700 or $800. I mean, they didn't really lose money all this time.
That's great.
So I thought, what I need to do is just pull all that stuff and sell it to somebody who's racing a Mustang in a class that needs that, or sell it to a guy with a Ford Lightning that wants to increase, his stuff, and put that money into a typical 4-barrel intake manifold and a Holley Sniper system. And it's not going to be a wash, but it's going to be far less of an investment, than springing for the whole EFI system out of the box.
Right.
Already have the electric fuel pump. Already have the fuel lines run. Right. So I'm like, hello.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. So I'm going to end up running a Wyand Stealth aluminum intake manifold and put the Holley Sniper on that. And soon on eBay will be that Edelbrock upper and lower, the fuel rails, the fuel injectors, the throttle body, the mass air meter, and one package ready to go to a new home. And
perfect.
And then I'll just have to change the harness over and put the Holley ECM in and wire that up. And that's the one that's got the touchscreen, so you can answer a few questions about the displacement and the engine. It controls the timing. I already have an electronic distributor, so
perfect.
That will be dialed in. It's got a Ford TFI. It's an MSD version, but a TFI distributor. Thin film. I forgot what TFI stands for. Thick film. Anyway, I'll be able to control that.
That's a trivia question.
That is, yeah. Don't use that one. I don't know the answer. And then I can put a more traditional appearing intake, air filter on it and valve covers and stuff, and kind of bring the personality under the hood back to, what it was supposed to be.
Here's something interesting to think about. One might think, because you're going from your current setup, which is a port fuel injection system, to the Holley Sniper, which is a throttle body injection system. And somebody might think, well, he's moving backwards. What are you doing, knucklehead?
That's right. Totally.
Everyone knows port fuel injection is better. However, with this Holley system, you're going to gain so much more tunability, in so much less time, that this car is going to run way better than it did currently.
And I thought about that, and I actually we have another project going on at the shop where we're going to be putting in kind of a similar deal. It's a Corvette that we worked on a while ago. We did an LS3 swap on this Corvette, and now the customer wants it to look more appropriate for a 69 Corvette than an LS3. So we're going to end up doing a dual throttle body, like a dual quad intake.
Okay, cool.
And then put throttle bodies on that, and then a 3x2 style triangular air filter on top of it.
Ooh.
With a Y-shaped wiring harness, if you will, and have the Holley. That has a Holley Dominator on it, so it'll run the multiple throttle bodies. Mm-hmm. But that one, we're keeping the throttle bodies dry and running the port fuel, because that system is totally cool with that.
Sure.
The Sniper, in this case, you're 100% correct. A port fuel system, the difference is the fuel injectors are mounted basically right over the intake ports, and it shoots the fuel right in there, as opposed to a throttle body, which is like a carburetor, so the air fuel has to go down the intake and find its way all the way into the hole. Mm-hmm. For this car, I don't care. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's really my answer. Will it not be optimized? No, it will not be the optimal situation. Is it going to make that much of a difference on this one? Not at all. And our experience with the Holley Snipers is that the throttle response is wonderful, and the atomization is great. And if you didn't know, if you weren't racing the car and doing laps and doing dyno sessions, you would never miss it. So
that's awesome. Yeah, the Holley and a lot of those fuel injection systems have the annular discharge. So it shoots fuel all around the throttle body for great atomization and great mixing, and it's really quite an efficient setup.
Yeah. That's never been one of the complaints as we've done these installs. Everybody is just amazed by the instant response and how you know when you drive a car, you can tell when it's getting enough fuel. You can feel it. The engine sounds happy. It's not sputtering. It's not wheezing. And you know when it's getting too much fuel because it starts to bog and it starts to choke. And these systems, they get it, And again, I'm looking for something that you turn the key and you can drive it anywhere you want. And I can watch the screen now. And when the learning light is on, I know that it's refining itself. And like you said, it's going to be a far better calibration than I had. Without doing any of the work, and you open the hood and it's going to look right.
Yeah, that's great. And what would have taken you 3 days to tune will take you an hour now.
Well, let's qualify that statement. It's taken me 20 years and it's not in tune yet.
What? Even better. What's taken you 20 years to not accomplish will take you an hour to accomplish.
Yes, by driving around.
Setting the basic map on the awesome handheld, and putting your parameters in and going and letting it refine itself.
Right. And we do a lot of these swaps at the shop for good reason. They work, and there are a couple of gotchas that we've come across, and I don't know if we talked about this on this particular podcast, but a recent one is our buddy Yardley. Again, mentioned him last time. He put a Sniper on his Riv, on his '69 Riviera, and he had some problems with it. And we learned that in certain cases, depending on where your ignition coil is and how your car is wired, the air cleaner stud ends up acting like a radio antenna.
Get out of here.
Because if you look at the anatomy of the Holley Sniper, the ECM is built into the throttle body.
Right.
And when you put this threaded rod into that throttle body, it is going to pick up RFI interference under hood and channel it right down into where the ECM is.
Oh, man.
And they wig out, because they're getting interference. And his car had it pretty bad. There are other people who their coil might be situated farther away or different shielding on the wires or whatever, and they never notice it. It's not a problem. So what we're telling people today, and I actually got this tip from Mike Ring, at the or Jim Ring, actually, at the Ring Brothers. Yeah. The fix is to use a non-conductive carb stud. So something out of Delrin, or which is kind of like nylon.
Sure.
it's no longer an antenna.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I wonder if you could use like some kind of composite carb stud, and that would fix that. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
So, gonna go with that right out of the box on mine,
Perfect.
and hopefully not have any issues. So it should be pretty cool.
Knock on wood, man.
That's
It's
it.
gonna be awesome.
No, I just got to resist the urge to tear the car completely apart while doing this conversion because there's a few details that need to be taken care of. I got an oil pan with a stripped out drain plug.
Oh no.
That happened 17 years ago. And we won't say whose wife was a little heavy-handed on the tightening function one night during an oil change. But I have another oil pan, so to do that, it's like, well, I got to lift the motor up, and if I'm gonna lift it up, I'm gonna maybe check the bearings, and I might, paint the block, and we'll see.
Yeah.
So,
Gosh darn it. Oh boy. Might as well, right?
yeah. It won't go. I'm gonna try and do the whole thing in a weekend. That's my goal.
Perfect.
Friday
if that's your
afternoon.
time budget, then
Yeah.
that'll prevent you from doing anything
Right.
foolhardy.
Right. Well, it's going to take some planning. So, Friday night is going to be tear down, fluid drain, pull the hood, pull the motor out, maybe do some of the cleaning and stripping.
Okay.
And I'm going to get a set of bearings and gaskets and have all that stuff waiting. So when I flip this thing over and I pull the pan, I'm going to check the bearings. And if they're good, nothing happens. If they're not good, it doesn't have any problems. So I can't imagine it needs machine work,
Mm-hmm.
But maybe I put a fresh set of shells in it, and that's end of day Friday night, and then Saturday, do some cleaning, do some painting, do some rearranging, and throw it back in and start putting the sniper stuff on, and then hopefully
That's cool, man.
Finish it up.
I didn't realize you were going to pull the whole motor to do all that.
Well, I don't have to again, but I have to,
Yeah, I understand.
Just because there's things that when we did the car the first time, I wouldn't do that again, and
okay.
If I go through this and I leave some of that stuff, I'm going to be upset.
All right. So it's a chance to right some wrongs, and that's good. That's fine.
Yes. So the fuel will definitely right some wrongs. I'm going to reuse the headers and reuse most of the stuff. I really want to change the front accessory drive.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's got a serpentine setup that is from an E350 Ford van.
Okay.
Which my thought was factory engineered stuff. Usually doesn't get much better than that.
Sounds right.
And the E350 van was a weird one because it used a GM Saginaw steering pump.
Did it?
Yeah. And it's a special bracket. And I like that steering pump, and I have a Hydro Boost set up, and I wanted to have that hybrid.
That.
Yeah. But today I know that there's a couple other. So what ended up happening is I started to get some weird belt squeal and slipping, and the tensioner hasn't been right, and there's some spacers in there because the 351s are kind of weird. They're a tall deck block, and some of the brackets are different. And anybody who plays with Ford stuff knows what a jigsaw puzzle it is to piece together an accessory drive system. It is a pain. And mine was all pieced together from junkyard stuff. And I might have some 5.0 parts in there with 351 parts and blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
And it kind of looks Chad. It doesn't look very good.
Okay. So what are you going to go with?
That really depends on the budget.
Okay.
There's kind of two that I'm looking at. The lower expensive.
What do you want to go with?
What I would love to do, if the stars align, would be a Vintage Air Front Runner. That system, in my opinion, is top of the food chain.
Okay.
When Vintage Air designed that system, they didn't just design a serpentine drive. It is a structural thing. So on the Ford, it's basically a timing cover that's machined to accept their brackets. It all bolts to the front of the block, yeah. And it's got so it's a rock solid foundation.
Mm-hmm.
It uses hard coat anodized pulleys. It's either a polished or a black or a natural aluminum. It uses they were using Stewart water pumps. I think they still are, which is one of the top water pumps you can buy. They've got an outstanding alternator. They have a great steering pump. It's a GM Type 2 style, smaller pump, which we have later learned those are quite happy with Hydro Boost systems. So
Cool.
There's no problem there. They are super compact. They're tight to the block. They don't stand out, and they're just dead nuts reliable. Every one we've ever put on a car, they're still going perfectly, They're also the highest investment level of, all of them. I'm not saying you don't get what you pay for. I just got to get what I can afford,
Right. I understand.
So that's what I'm thinking about.
Well, that's cool, man. That's that'll be neat to see that all done. So you got a timeline of when that's going to happen?
Yeah, I actually put the order in with Holly for the parts so far, and we're waiting on production of the intake manifolds. So, as you and I are laying this what was the name of this?
Spiffing.
This
Kevin.
spiffing episode.
Spiffing. Yes.
Tomorrow, there's supposed to be a production run, so the parts might be around next week.
Right on.
And then just trying to line up the right weekend to get the car to the shop. And part of me wants to do it at home in my home garage, because I've got it just, I don't have everything I need here, but I got most of the stuff I need here. Mm-hmm. But when I introduce the concept of doing some paint work, that should probably be done at the shop where the paint booth is.
Probably should be.
Yeah. So the funny thing is, so we've been in business. This is our 16th year since we've incorporated.
Wow, man.
I know. You believe that?
That's awesome.
And I think my Galaxy has never spent the night at our shop.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
Wow, that's going to change, fella.
Well, and I that's a funny thing because it's been there to get, fluid changes and, I've done some maintenance. And it's currently in storage because the transmission puked and my overdrive went down, and I'm working on a solution for that too. But right now, the first step is going to be this fuel swap as I develop the concept for the transmission. And there are people that have shops that are full of their own cars. We've all been to the guy with the body shop or the hot rod shop, and it's like half the cars there belong to the owner. And in my opinion, when the team's working on the owner's cars, it's like, yeah, it's a boss's car. We got to paint this thing or whatever. And to me, that's not why we got into business. We build cars for other people. So I've always tried to do all my own stuff at home. Unless I need some super major help. And but this time I think I'm just going to go ahead and say, you know what, maybe in 15, 16 years of doing this, it's okay to maybe use a corner of your shop for a weekend. Maybe once.
Maybe we'll allow it just this one time.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
Yeah, man.
So, yeah, I just don't want to be in the way. I don't want to be in the way of, legitimate work, the customers are doing.
And you won't be. I mean, what is going to be scheduled and when that paint booth is going to be occupied, or if it's on a weekend when there's no work going on. I mean,
that's the idea. That's the idea. Just kind of stay out of the way and get my stuff done and get in and get out.
Right on, man.
It'll be like, going to Wisconsin.
Yeah, zip in, paint the car, zip out.
That's right.
Oh, I'm excited to learn about this. This is good stuff. I'm happy for you.
Yeah, thank you. Me too. Mm-hmm. I mean, and the whole goal is to be able to drive the car more and enjoy it.
Amen. I mean, that car was a big part of your life.
That's how we got here, man.
Yeah.
Without that thing, you and I would not be having this conversation if it wasn't for that car.
I get it. That's the truth. That's the truth.
Yes.
Very cool.
Listeners can go back to a different episode and hear that story, right? We've covered that whole story.
Yes, we have. Yeah.
I don't know which episode it was in.
It was one of them.
Yeah, that's right.
It was one of them.
And speaking of that, you've made some updates on the GTO motor.
Yeah, Randy and I were finally able to get together this past weekend. Let's see, what did we do? We degreed the cam, and it turns out the lift is a little higher than advertised, but that's okay. It's nothing outrageous. The duration is spot on, so that's cool. So I'm happy with all that.
Not a potential piston to valve clearance issue.
No, not at all.
Good.
Yeah, nothing like that. We even Randy had some helper springs, and I used an old set of heads we put on there to test the rocker geometry, and we had it at top dead center, and I pushed that valve all the way down to the seal from the keeper, so everything was bound up, and there was no touching the piston. So
excellent.
So that's great. I'm happy about that. And we did a few other things. We got the oil pan finally bolted on. I had to get the dipstick tube pressed into the block from underneath. So we finally got that done.
Mm-hmm.
So that let us put the oil pan on. We got the timing cover put on, bolted down. At this point, I got to get the valley pan either replaced or hot tanked because it tends to build up quite a bit of junk inside of it.
Mm-hmm.
And just get some heads done, which our friend Eric is working on.
Mm-hmm.
And just all these little odds and ends things. So we're close.
Getting closer.
We are really making good progress on this. So I'm feeling better and better about this every day, about meeting my goal of driving on a power tool leg.
Right on.
So yeah, I'm pretty stoked about it, and in no small part to your guidance and generosity that helped me along. It's been fantastic. So thank you.
Really haven't done anything, so
yeah, the motivation has been great. I know you're excited as just as much as I am to get this back on the road, to see me in it again.
Oh yeah.
And another goal is I want to drive it down to next year's driving cruise. I think that would be fantastic.
Yep.
So
this year's or next year's?
This August.
Yeah.
They usually have it in August, right?
Yeah, but I guess that's this year.
That's this year's, yeah. Because we are in 2020.
In this year, yeah. Yeah, right on. And hopefully we've got some big news on that coming too. So it'll be a good one to be at.
Right on, man.
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, things are happening. Things are happening on the GTO front.
Well, it's really great to hear. And so you were working on that over the weekend, I guess, but you were also working on a race car over the weekend.
I did. Saturday, I was working on the Lemons car. That's for the 24 Hours of Lemons race coming up April 4th and 5th at the Autobahn Country Club in Joliet this year. So my buddy Matty, who's our team owner, he was able to get the car shipped up here from Atlanta, and we had to pull the interior out, and we had to wire in the fire suppression, or not wire in, but plumb the fire suppression system.
Well, let's back up a few steps here and
sure.
Tell us about the rules of the 24 Hours of Lemons, and what car did you guys end up doing?
It's a late 80s, early 90s Buick LeSabre, I believe it is. It's a big family sedan with a 3.8 liter V6.
Front
that
drive.
Came from a Grand Prix. Yeah. Front drive.
It's a transplant motor?
Yeah, because last year when they were racing it, they blew the motor. It spun a bearing.
This is the second year for this car?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Those 3.8s, so it's a 3800 then, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so that's a full roller, port fuel, DFI.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Remote coil or coil on plug, right?
Coil on plug, yeah. No, they use coil packs, three coil packs, and
okay, coil packs.
They have two exit, two outputs per coil.
And I'm going to say that thing was factory rated, I think, at 165 horsepower and like 215 torque, something like that.
Could be. I know in the late 90s, early 2000s, in the Grand Prix, they were rated at 200 horsepower.
Yeah. Well, and there was also a supercharged version.
The GTPs were rated at 240 to 260, I believe.
That's
pretty hot.
The 3800 was the next generation of the 3.8 odd fire Buick V6. So they're torquey little motors.
Yeah. Yeah, they're good motors. They're great. They're well built. They're strong.
Full roller again.
Yeah, no complaints about them. And so we just have to adapt to this year's rule changes. You used to just have to have a fire extinguisher in the car. Now you have to have a full fire suppression system.
So what does that mean?
You have like a fire extinguisher mounted with a remote activation, and you have lines plumbed from it that spray into the cabin as well as into the engine compartment.
Huh.
Yeah.
So were you able to take a dry extinguisher?
Yeah, well, he picked up a complete system for that. So purpose-built tank that's designed to be mounted like on the center console, and that's where we put it, and just ran the lines and pray we pass tech.
Well, and pray you don't need it. That's the other thing.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you don't want to. That'll ruin your day. Little fire ruins a lot of days.
Yeah, it's not
good,
fun.
but you're ready for it. So you got the fire suppression system in.
Yep. We had to put a like a backstop, like this brace for the back of the seat back. So if you're rear-ended, their seat back doesn't collapse. So that was installed. We had problems with the kill switch. The kill switch wasn't working properly, so we had to. Maddie's got to get a new one of those. And you also have to. It has to be mounted where the driver can access it, as well as any help can access it easily as well. So he rigged some kind of wire with a handle on it to pull it from the passenger side to turn it off.
Okay. And do you have a sign that says pull or whatever?
I think.
Probably
probably. It's probably a good idea.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring that up in the next meeting.
Well, and this whole series, it used to be what, $300 or $500 in the total price of the car or something. What was it?
Correct. I think it's like $500. Yeah. Has to be the total price of the car.
But
and if you win your season, you win like $400 in nickels.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing your fire suppression system was probably every bit of that.
All day long.
Yeah.
All day
so that's the car price. It's not the mods and.
Correct. Correct. Not the overall investment, just the initial vehicle investment.
Right, because there was a series where the total investment had to be less than $1,000 or something, right? Was that the Grassroots Motorsports thing? Is this the Grassroots Motorsports thing?
This, I do believe it is Grassroots Motorsports.
Yeah. And they used to have people that you'd have to present your accounting, of like receipts of what you bought and spent, and you could sell parts off the car and, do all that. I think I got a little ridiculous, but that was a long time ago.
I didn't know that.
I don't know if that still matters. At one point, I think it did. And in the early days of online forums, I think guys were getting all bent out of shape because they would show up with a car that clearly wasn't, a $500 car. And you're cheating because, you got all this stuff. And they had to present, how they landed on that number.
I mean, that's fair.
It kind of took the fun
you don't
out
want ringers. Yeah.
No, like, my grandmother sold me her S600 Mercedes for $150.
Exactly. Yeah. But there are some fast cars that race in this series. I was talking to Matty, and he says, I was going like 100 miles an hour on the backstretch, and I was getting passed up like I was standing still. Some of these cars are just ridiculously fast.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I believe it. I don't know if I'd ever told you the story. In 1987, my dad bought a Delta 88 Oldsmobile, 4-door.
Nice car.
And it had the 3800. It was...
okay.
Actually, I think it was probably the last year for the 3.8 before they named it 3800. But it was the roller motor, the whole thing. 165 horsepower, now that I think of it. Mm-hmm. And, I was in high school, and one night I had that car, and my buddy had a 79 Camaro Berlinetta with a 305. And
hell yeah.
we squared off, and I beat him in a...
Really?
It was longer than a quarter-mile drag race, but yeah, the Oldsmobile walked him.
Wow.
I know. Nobody could believe it. He was pissed.
Well, he should have been. God dang it! I got a V8 Camaro. I lost this Oldsmobile.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
A lot of torque steer. I remember that car had.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh sure. Well, I had a 99 Grand Prix GTP with the supercharged 3800, and that torque steered like crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about the limit you want on a front wheel drive car.
Well, is this a front wheel drive class that you guys are racing in, or are you going to be up against rear drive Mazdas and stuff?
That is a great question. One that I'm also going to bring up at the next meeting.
Oh, right on two. Nice. Yeah. Trivia questions. Because you're at a disadvantage, front drive against something else.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think he expects to win. I just think he expects to have fun.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Well, and you're already doing that, so.
Yeah. We're all winners now, man.
Yes. The participation trophy race of champions.
It's my whole life right now.
Yeah. That's cool, though.
But yeah, it should be really fun.
All right, so really the race is in April, and what is left to do on this thing then?
We have to still finish. We have to plumb the release rig up the release handle for fire suppression, because we got the plumbing in, but we don't have the activation in. So we got to figure that out. That also has to be easily accessible by the driver, obviously. So there's going to be some fabrication involved with that. Unfortunately, his garage is not a great fabrication shop, so we're going to have to kind of come up with something that's going to facilitate that.
Well, if you need to make a couple of brackets, you should come down. A weekend I'll be putting an EFI system in the car. You can go in the fab shop and break stuff and weld stuff. And
you got a deal. That'd be great.
Make it all out of cardboard and bring it down and we'll chop it up and do it up.
Yeah, what else we have to do? The fire suppression. Oh, the kill switch. We have to rewire the kill switch properly. Where there was some questions about how to wire up the battery cable wires from the kill switch into the battery, and the guy that did it before said it was in parallel, but that didn't make any sense to me, because if it's in parallel, a kill switch isn't going to really have any effect.
No.
So I'm going to do my research and make sure that gets wired in correctly and do it right.
Wired in correctly.
Series. Yeah.
You just said...
wired.
I got to make sure it's going to be wired in correctly. Wired
in. Be wired correctly.
Wired in correctly, yes.
Yeah. Wired in, correctly. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Yes. So that's all I can really think of. That we have to do. So.
And then, as far as driver safety, you got to have a helmet, I'm guessing, and gloves or something. And
yeah, you have to have there's a full roll cage in the car. You have to have a fire suit, helmet, Nomex gloves, the whole shebang. I mean, the real deal. So it's not like you can't race in your, jean shorts or anything like that.
Yeah, and flip flops.
Although that would be fun, but that's not going to fly.
No, not in competition anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's really cool, and I know our listener is envisioning a maroon '92 Buick or whatever it is, and that's what it is. I mean, you sent the picture. Yeah. It's maroon with what, gray or maroon interior or something.
Oh yeah, it was gray.
Yeah.
So apropos for that car.
Yeah, that's cool. That's going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be great, and I'm really excited that he asked me to be part of that. So I'm really excited about it.
This is year 2 for you on this team.
No, this is the first time I've done it.
Oh, okay. So that was a different deal. That was actual racing that you were crewing on up at Road America.
Oh yeah, my buddy Chris Shaftsma.
Right.
He races in SCCA.
That's right. That's the real deal.
He races, his Volkswagen Golf.
Yeah,
that's or his GTI. Excuse me. Sorry, Chris. GTI. Gotta be correct.
It's just like those other guys. It's an SRT4. It's not a Neon.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, but
There
I
is a
helped him
difference.
crew a couple of times on that car, and
Right.
that was a gas as well. So
Yeah, all your racing ventures, it's hard to keep track of them now. My gosh.
I'm everywhere, man. I'm lucky I find time to do this show.
You are. Yeah. I'm honored and privileged to get the hour. Yeah.
Ay.
That's
All
cool.
right.
Tells me
Yeah, that's
I
good stuff.
don't get enough racing exposure these days. Used to be I was covering the NMCA races all over the country every weekend and,
Right.
and doing,
Yeah.
Optima stuff and, autocross events and all the rest. And
Mm-hmm.
I got to do more of that.
You do. Next summer, Kevin.
Well, and we had talked a little bit about this Corvette that we have. Did we talk about that on the show?
Right. No, we have not talked about it on the show.
Yeah. Well, we've got a 79 Corvette that we use to mock up some interior stuff that has been suggested we drive to Bonneville and run on the salt flats and drive it home.
This has to happen. This has to happen.
Yeah. We need to get on that like now. So it would be a great time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it would be legendary.
I don't know if it'd be legendary, but it'd be fun.
It would be legendary, Kevin.
It's a loose adaptation of the term legendary, but
Nope. That's
And
what
again-
the term was made for.
it wouldn't be, a bunch of dopes in a 79 Corvette. Yeah.
Yes. What could go wrong?
And it wouldn't again be trying to set any kind of record or anything, or just to do it, just to drive out
Yeah.
there and run it and drive it back and survive. Would be
For
pretty cool.
sure. Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm going to be talking to our friend Grady, and we're going to make sure that you get coerced into this properly.
Well, yeah, he was the main motivator behind it because he's a big salt guy,
Mhm.
and as am I. He's more into it than I am. He's
Mhm.
he's got the ability to project and say we can actually do this.
And he's not wrong.
No, he's not. And the car isn't all screwed up. It doesn't have an engine or transmission, and the interior is gutted already. And we were just kind of kicking around what would be a good power plant for the thing. And again, it would kind of be like our, Bonneville Le Mans approach, because nobody really has any money or wants to put money into this car beyond making it safe. We're not building
Sure.
a race car. It just so happened that we had the Corvette, and it just kind of happens that they're stable at speed.
Mm-hmm.
And I might have a source of a couple of takeoff parts from another Corvette project that we could modify the suspension with a little bit. I'm almost thinking carbureted small block in it, and just
It's perfect.
get there and get back, and
Mm-hmm.
although a junkyard 5.3 with a little Chinese wool whistle on it would be kind of fun too.
A Chinese woo whistle. Oh yeah.
But we'll see.
Oh, that's the best thing I've heard all day.
Yep.
Oh my God, that's beautiful. That is priceless.
Well, that's the high note I've been waiting for. And look at the time.
How about it?
For those who listen on their lunch hour, we'll try to keep this contained.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
So, yeah, more to come on the Bonneville car. We'll leave it at that.
Cool. Cool.
In the meantime, maybe we should share the results of our trivia question that I got wrong.
Yes, indeed. Let's share those results. Okay, Kevin, I asked you which U.S. auto manufacturer had the typewriter drive, and what was the typewriter drive? And you were kind of going down a path to say Ford, in like the Galaxy, big cars, and that would have been wrong.
Yeah, I knew that.
But instead, you picked Plymouth, which is part of Chrysler, which did have the typewriter drive, which, yes, Kevin, was the push-button transmission.
Hey!
Have a nice day. Have a nice day.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
See?
man.
Luck exists, friends.
Oh, my God. I knew you were going to pull it off, too. God dang it.
Well, I'm not the the sharpest lemon in the box, but I'm glad I was able to connect those dots. Very satisfying.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that was pretty cool watching your mind work like that. So, right on.
Well, that was a great question. Good job.
Thank you.
I learned something, so that's good. All right, so my question to you was, what car company built the Manta, and where could you buy one? And your response was General Motors was the parent company.
Yeah.
And the actual company was Buick, which logically you could buy them at your local Buick dealer.
Correct. But not correct.
Every word of that except for one is correct.
Get the flip out of here.
And the one word that's wrong is only half wrong.
Shut up! What?
So I'm going to give it to you. You won that one. The correct.
God damn it! I won it.
Yes. The correct answer is Opel.
Opel Manta. God darn it.
Yes, the esteemed Opel Manta from 71 to 75 or something was the first series of them. And Opel was a German car company owned by General Motors.
General Motors.
And Opels were sold at your local Buick dealer.
Shut your mouth.
Not lying at all. So you got it right.
Wow. Holy Jesus.
Wow. Yay, everybody wins.
Whoa. This is what winning feels like. It feels great. Holy shnikes.
Yeah. And those are super cool little cars. And we're not talking about the Opel GT that looks like a miniature Corvette. The Opel Manta was, to me, it's like a mini fastback Mustang with Corvette taillights is kind of how, and it's German, and they sold a ton of them, and they had little 4-cylinders in them, but they're neat little cars. And you can thank your friend Kelly for that trivia question.
Thank you, Kelly.
Yeah.
Right on.
She knew you knew that one, so.
She knew I knew that one. He's going to know that.
Let's give him one.
Oh, that's killer.
Yeah.
Woo. I got to bask in the glory of this one here for a second.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was a well worthwhile episode, my friend.
Yeah, thanks.
If I
It
may
really
say
came
so
together
myself,
at the end.
It was a spiffer.
It was very spiffing.
Yes, outstanding. And I do want to throw a little thing out there at the end of the show. We usually say where you can listen, which sounds silly to me because you're already listening. But it's turning out that there's a lot of different random places where you can tune into these episodes. And I usually when we share them on the Facebook page, we share the link to our website. Correct. And I'm learning that is proving to be a little cumbersome. The player technology just isn't that great. So for a better experience, I'm going to recommend using one of the podcast services. So Apple Podcast, iTunes is a good one. Spotify, iHeartRadio. iHeartRadio is nice because it sends you an email when an episode comes out. Podchaser is another good one. We don't want to cause hassle, so find an easy way to listen to this. Forget our website.
We really just want you to listen.
Well, people were contacting me, and I'm like, oh, I grabbed my phone one day, and I went to our own website. I'm like, you know what, this is kind of a pain. So, some people don't like, particular conglomerates. They might not be a fan of Apple anything, so they don't want to go to iTunes, which I get. But there are other alternatives. Stitcher's another good one.
Correct.
So the whole list is, and not the whole list because there's others that are being added all the time, but iTunes, Apple, Spotify, TuneIn, Google with their new Google podcast thing, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Player FM.
FM.
Pretty good one. Podbean, Podchaser. And if you really want to, you can go to the website at v8radio.com. But don't say I didn't warn you if you get frustrated. Unless we can make some technology upgrades, which we will work on. But that's all I got for that. So, and then subscribe, and then you'll probably get some kind of an indicator. And to your recommendation, been exploring doing the YouTube channel.
Oh, cool.
For V8 Radio, and struggling a little bit. Our V8 TV channel has been around long enough to where I can probably put up a 5-hour video if I want.
Right.
But I didn't want to put the V8 Radio podcasts in the V8 TV channel because it's really not a video, you know. And we've done a couple
Correct.
teasers before, and people are like, "What the heck? I saw the same picture for 5 minutes." You know, they didn't quite get it. It's funny. Your brain is used to something, and when you throw them something a little bit different. So we created the V8 Radio channel, but being a new channel, technically, I think we've got a 10-minute limit on the file
on
length.
content.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I uploaded an hour-long show, and it kicked it out and said, you know. So I'm working on whatever I did to make our other channels handle longer videos.
Okay.
And once we get that dialed in, then we'll have a YouTube channel as well, and you'll be able to
right on.
stream them that way, which it's turning out that there's a lot of podcasters that use YouTube very successfully. Joe Rogan is one. And he'll put his whole 2-hour show out, and then he'll also do videos that are snippets of his podcast.
Right.
You know, like a 5-minute thing, you know.
That guy, his podcast has been in the top 10, overall top 10 for over a year.
Oh, yeah.
It's
yeah.
never left the top 10.
Right. And I think in our case, what we would do is just randomly grab 5 minutes of our show and just put it out there.
Perfect.
So it might be the middle of a story, you know, whatever.
Yeah, you know.
We'll see. So, yeah, a lot of fun stuff to come. So, pretty cool.
Right on.
All right, man. Well, this has been a good one. Thanks for the thanks for the time. Some great updates. Everything's going forward. Like to hear it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, it is. And that's all we got for this time. We will chat at you next time. But until then, keep the shiny side over 100, and we'll see you next time on V8 Radio.